BI analytics people are dead. I was speaking to several experts trying to make the business intelligence for my startup, and I got crazy offers like $15,000 just to set up tracking and some basic analytics. Guys, this is insane, I'm sorry. So I went on a revenge journey trying to solve this issue myself. I was convinced that you can do it with AI. And I was right. With Claude Code, you can do everything yourself. Stay with me now and let's go in and I'll show you how to do it. Okay guys, a few things, like this is a freestyle session. And I would say it's kind of founder-led, but it's not really founder-led. Why? Because I'm not going to show you the numbers of our business, you know? Don't ask me why. Like if you are young, I understand that you wouldn't understand it, but in my time, we didn't show our business numbers to anyone. I'll show it to investors, I'll show it to VCs, I'll show it where it makes sense for me to show it. I won't show it online publicly on the web. What do I need? More competitors, like we have enough of those, right? Anyway, let's start. Now the format I'm testing here is new. So you will see me on the corner, on the bottom corner of the screen here. And then on the top, above me, I'm going to start playing some videos. Why? Because you probably have the attention span of a goldfish by now. So the chances that you can keep up with anything is not very high. And this is why your chances also to make it in business is quite low. But let's assume that the people that it matters to them are going to stick around. You know what? Why the fuck should you even listen to me? Look at this video above me. It's not a DJ. That's me printing with a software company that reached 120 employees in less than 1 year. And because we met those goals, I made this party. And I said, I'm gonna DJ the party if we print, if we make the money. So I'm going to talk about how we used Claude Code to build the data warehouse for our business. And I'll show you the architecture. What we basically did is we took Stripe as our single source of truth because that's our money, right? That's where we get the money from. And we made sure that the metadata, the attributes that we can collect during the customer journey lands as much as possible as metadata in Stripe. This is one thing you want to do. Another thing is we are using a lot of influencers, especially on YouTube. That works very well for us. And Rewardful is the best affiliate attribution platform we found. So basically another layer of tagging is Rewardful. And we also post this data to Stripe. This is really important. Then I'm using the YouTube API to basically track down all the YouTuber influencers that we are working with their view counts. So we are consuming that as well. And we are crossing this information with how much we pay them. So we get a lot of useful information. And I'm going to show you some mock dashboards, how to do that. Then we use meta ads because we are an AI ads business, Max Fusion, so we are running meta ads ourselves. And I just built the whole dashboard quite easily, tracking our meta ads, and we feed that information as well into the attribution model. Then I'm using Google Sheets. Google Sheets is super simple to use, like for stuff like tracking influencers, how much you pay them and the views they get. This is done via YouTube. And finally, Google Analytics, which I found as the most weak layer of information, but you still need to know where the customer journey begins and where people come from. So those are all what we call data sources. So now we move to the ingestion layer. Ingestion layer is basically Google Cloud. And by the way, everything I say now, you don't have to understand fully. You can do it with Claude Code like I did. So basically Google Cloud has all the infrastructure you need. You might think, Star, what are you crazy? Like, I cannot use Google Cloud, you know, I don't have money. Well, first of all, it works on demand. And for the queries you are going to run with Claude, we are talking here like pennies or cents. Just remember in the beginning of this recording, I told you that I was talking to analytics guys who offered me like $5 just to set up some dashboards. This is pure insanity. Also, I can tell you that the amount of data I could query and cross-reference just by talking to Claude and feeding all of this data to Google Cloud is insane. Google Cloud has something that is called BigQuery. And BigQuery is just their kind of database as a service that you can run queries on. So what you want to do is connect to Claude Code on your terminal. You want to give it terminal access to your Google Cloud platform. You can do it together with Claude in the beginning. And the magic is that basically Claude can connect directly to the terminal of Google Cloud and then start building your data warehouse and your whole analytics system just by talking to it. And what I did is basically achieved those dashboards in something like 3 to 4 working days. I'm still working on it day by day, but we reached insane data accuracy. Why is it important? Because let's say, even if you're in the beginning of your journey, like us, we are a pre-seed startup, so obviously we are not yet in the millions of dollars, but we will. It's coming pretty soon. I promise you, we are growing extremely fast. And what we see is, it's very important actually to know the activities that I'm doing. Let's say on X, I'm posting stuff on X. We are doing founder-led content marketing on LinkedIn. We are doing YouTubers, like paying influencers on YouTube. We are testing Instagram Reels and TikTok. So we have a bunch of those doing that as well. We're doing stuff on Reddit. So how would you know how much money comes from each activity? And you could say, you cannot know that. Yeah, of course you can, because you have the list of paying customers on Stripe. And if you did your work good here, you will be able to start attributing and revealing which activities bring money. So basically, now we reached accuracy of around 94% attribution. I think for a pre-seed startup, it's quite astounding. I can tell you that just 10 years ago, it was unthinkable. First of all, BI would not be affordable at all, like for any startup. You would only have it in the biggest companies in the world, like with tens of employees, huge data lakes and data warehouse. I just remember when the word big data was even coined, and everybody said, oh, wow, what is big data? What is big data? It's like, no, big data is the game of the big boys, the ones that print, the ones that make money. But now you can do it yourself. And honestly, thinking about it now, that I basically built this whole system just by paying Claude Code $200 and just spent 3 working days, I saved my startup $20,000 to $30,000 seriously in BI work. And what I got is pure gold, because now we can see all of our GTM strategies. Why does it matter? First of all, because if you are going to raise funds, the investors are going to ask you for this information. But I'm not doing it for them, I'm doing it for us. Because our whole business here is to understand which channels work. And it opened our eyes for lots of things. Basically, the next interesting layer that you have in Google Cloud is that it has its own scheduler. So you can run cron jobs that query all of these databases, that the APIs that we talked about, save it all in your data warehouse, and then you can start crossing the information and build dashboards that are insightful for your business. And for that, we use the Metabase, because Metabase is self-hosted with HTTPS. Again, Claude built it all, and we have a safe login to this area where we can see our business dashboards. And this changes everything. Now, before we go into the dashboards, another big disclosure. I know what you're going to say, like, hey, show us your real numbers, you are fake. So first of all, I don't owe you shit, but you can say thank you that I'm showing you anything at all. And I think what I'm going to show you is still extremely useful. Those dashboards have all fake numbers in them right now. Because again, I said, this is not built in public as you expect it to be. I'm not gonna share my revenue with you. And you know what? Let's do it. Let's play another game. Anyone that doesn't have at least $1 million in their bank account right now, I'm not talking about your company's value on paper. I'm talking about having at least $1 million in any of your bank accounts right now as we speak. If you don't have it, shut up. Oh, guess what? I can keep talking. Good. Let's get back to showing the dashboards. So the first dashboard we are going to look at is the business overview. And we did that because we believe those are the most important metrics that you can show your investors. You will need it for your deal room. You will need to show people what are the things in your business that matters, especially if it's a SaaS, and especially if you have monthly running revenue, which means you are a subscription-based business like us. So here are the widgets we built. What is the current MRR and ARR, which is just the multiplier by 12 months, assuming, of course, that's what you have. Then the average LTV would basically be the average of all your paying customers, what will be the total value of their lifetime, and what is the ARPU, average monthly paying customer. Why does this matter? Because when you run acquisition channels, you want to check if you are able to bring the first cash in per client and still have a surplus so you can respend it on advertisement. Then we have the ARR over time. You want to check this graph if you're going up or down. Again, this is all done by Claude Code. You can check revenue, which is not the same like MRR, because you might make good revenue every month, but because you have bigger subscribers, but your MRR is going down, which is bad for you. You need to make sure you also gain subscribers. We did donut charts with breakdown by tiers. In our case, we have 3 packages. So we are just showing the breakdown of customers by packages, you know? And you want to check your active subscribers by time and churn rate. So churn rate is really important because you're doing a bunch of stuff to make sure your bucket is not leaking, right? If you're getting lots of customers in and they all leave pretty fast, you're fucked. So if you don't want to go in that corner, what you want to make sure is check your churn rate per package over time, because you might find out, for example, in our case, starter is our cheapest plan, and it's just an invitation to check if you're a qualified customer for our business, which is the high-paying customers, the ones that use ads and make ads in volume, in high volumes. So basically, the churn rate is extremely important, and we divided it for tiers because we think we don't just want to see the general churn rate. It basically masks what you really care about, because this is a funnel. Then there are some cohorts, which is the retention rate, very, very important as well. You want to measure, in our case, we want to measure the jumping between the tiers in the funnel, so you can create basically the conversion rates and the LTV between the tiers and of the tiers. Very, very, very important. So that's pretty much the business dashboard. And let's move to the next one. The next interesting thing is the channel attribution. So basically, once we connected our analytics, we could query things like total demo sign-ups and then total customers. So this is interesting. You want to see traffic to sign-ups to paying customers, so you can understand your conversion rate, the journey from sign-up to paying customer, and the journey from just landing on your website. Then the geolocations are very important because you want to know where are they coming from. One of the things that VCs are going to ask you, what is the biggest market that you are selling to? Obviously, if the answer usually is not the United States, you're we are not because our main customer base is American. We do have a lot of Europe as well, but that's not the main thing. Then once you have that, you can make an attribution pie of the revenue to country. I'm not going to get into how we did it, but basically you try to take the confirmed revenue and then apply the unattributed formula to the rest of the geolocations. That's kind of, let's say, the lamest way to get clarity, at least initial clarity. But more important is to do it by acquisition channels. And at the beginning, you will have less information, but the more you become smart, you can attribute it more accurately. So for example, if we know that we run influencers campaigns, so you can see there are donut charts that show attributed and estimated. So attributed basically means all of the confirmed conversions that we can say 100% where they came from. And then we take that pie and apply it to the unattributed revenue. And basically, we are kind of predicting what is the revenue that we couldn't attribute, for example, for influencers, for X, for other chunks of revenue. And when you do it this way, it exposes kind of a bigger picture of all the revenue that you couldn't track, where it's coming from. So you would know which channels you should invest in. Major thing when you're a startup in the beginning of your life cycle, think about it, because you're not guessing anymore where the customers are coming from. You see where they're coming from. Then you can check active users by channel. That's what we did, just to see where the traffic is coming from. Two stick charts that say monthly signups by channel and monthly revenue by channel. Very, very important. You want to see if there is a certain trend where you posted some activity in some days that you know of. Then you see that pie of the chart, like that piece of the chart growing. This is really, really important. Then the next dashboard we did is when you have more mature channels like we do. So for example, YouTube influencers is quite a strong channel for us, as we said. Then I make separate dashboards for those channels, especially if I can measure a lot of data from there. So you will see a bunch of widgets here. So I'm just going to go on some of them. Basically, like how many impressions the total videos made. This you can do with YouTube API. It's for free. You don't need to pay for that. Then the total influencer revenue that generated for you. Then we have the cost, the CAC, which is very important. Like, what is the client acquisition cost? How much do you pay eventually to get a client? How do you do that? You take basically the amount of paying clients you attributed, plus all the ones that came from YouTube and paid, but that were not attributed, and you bind them together. Then you check how much money you made from this, and then you know what is the cost per client, because you know how much you paid, the total money that you paid your influencers. This is really, really important. then you basically can calculate your return on investment. So you can say ROI. I don't want to say ROAS because that's not ad spend. It's return on investment. Then you can find out what, am I break even? Am I losing money on this influencer activity? Is it positive? Because if it's positive, then you have a growth channel. This is really, really important. Then you can also check stuff like cost per CPM. And we added breakdown to see influencers' performance, because you want to find outliers. Many of the YouTubers that you will work with, for example, will generate lots of impressions, but they won't generate money. So what does it matter? Who cares about impressions, right? We are here to make money. So that's the point here of working with the dashboard to break it down to greater details. Then we added some stick charts where you can see, for example, ROI by influencers. So you can see your rising influencers and you can decide who you want to give more money to. Usually the ones that give you more sales. Then you can see the cost per 1,000 views, CPM. And we can also see the spend, like another stick chart we made, like we see the spend versus the money we get over time for different influencers. So we know which ones are better to work with compared to others. But you do have to see a lot of them in order to understand which ones actually make money and which ones not. You cannot assume anything. So this is a pretty important chart as well that we built. And the last one is, I would consider now the most boring one, because there are many ways that you can visualize your meta ads performance. But I think as we keep growing this budget, we will have more information about what matters in meta ads. I admit that meta ads for now is our smallest channel, but we are still growing it. We are just at the start of our journey. We did like daily spend, sign-ups, our goals in the funnel. But just to show you that I just generated a token in Meta Business and gave it to Claude and generated this whole dashboard literally in minutes, like the meta ads one. So to conclude, now you don't need to pay any BI expert. You do need BI, because if you don't know where the money is coming from or which activities you're making or even giving you paid users or sign-ups, you have no chance. You are not going to make it. Forget about it. It's over. And no investor is going to take you seriously. So if you cannot show anything and all you have to say is some story you want to tell about how great you're going to be, you're just going to get roasted. Show data and you are taking your game to a new level. And don't be afraid to use Claude Code. In my setup, I just use Claude Code Opus 4.7 on my terminal on my Mac. I connected it to Google Cloud Platform and I did the rest from there. You can use Metabase for dashboards. It's free, it's open source, and it's secure enough. You will have your own login and you can host self-hosted or decide where you want to host it. This is basically the end of the lesson. Just don't be afraid. Start using it. And the beautiful thing is that once all of the data tables are updating daily and are stored in BigQuery, you are starting to build a data warehouse. We have bigger plans. We are going to add all of our CRM data and basically any channel that can give me engagement information via API. I'm going to feed it into this data warehouse, because then what we can do is create qualification of the data, verify it, create dashboards that show us meaningful information to understand where do I spend my money so I get it back the fastest, which is super important when you're doing growth hacking in the start and also later. So you can do all of this alone just by talking to Claude Code and just go at it, start doing it. I know in the beginning you might feel stupid. You might feel, this is an overkill, man. Why am I doing all of this, How many customers do I have that I need this to justify all of that? But you do. And I can tell you, for us, even we had such eye-openers like when we started doing this. So don't underestimate it and just get to work. Claude can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you and help you, generate the connections that you need and not work too much manually yourself. That's it. And the hot tip, make sure in your onboarding form to have where did I come from? Where did you hear about us section, and include as many as possible options. We found out that this is a gold mine of attribution data. When people take the time to feel where they came from, you can attribute them to the revenue source much better. Good luck. And I'm going to share some stuff with you, as I said, not everything. I hope you enjoyed this session and see you next time.